Across the United States, federal regulators track anomalous injury clusters, chemical spills, and contaminated food supplies on a near-daily basis. To separate routine defects from true crises, the FDA relies on strict legal thresholds. Chapter 8 defines an emergency as an unforeseen occurrence posing a significant risk to public health, specifically involving the safety and security of regulated products. This definition governs a continuous operational tension. Acting prematurely on incomplete data triggers unnecessary market panic, while delaying intervention to gather perfect information costs lives. To navigate this risk, the FDA abandons ad hoc reactions. Instead, it activates a modular, pre-engineered response architecture governed by the Incident Command System, a standardized hierarchy for emergency management. The agency's capability in a crisis relies entirely on its discipline in processing chaotic, fast-moving threats through this rigid, predefined schematic. Before the response apparatus deploys its resources, the FDA forces all incoming field data through a strict epistemological filter outlined in Section 8.4. The lowest threshold is an alert for unconfirmed reports, like sudden complaints or spills. It upgrades to presumptive if data establishes a significant association without complete proof. The highest threshold is confirmed, achieved when reliable laboratory analysis or trusted government intelligence verifies the hazard. A presumptive theory regarding a foodborne pathogen must be physically verified under a microscope or through rigorous chemical testing to cross this final threshold. Forcing data through this three-tiered taxonomy dictates exactly when and how the emergency apparatus activates, ensuring that finite federal resources are conserved for actual threats rather than rumors. Once a threat passes that filter, a central processing hub awakens, the Emergency Operations Center. The manual mandates this command center maintains continuous operational readiness 24/7. All internal alerts and external intelligence strictly route through this single hub. In a scenario where a large-scale chemical spill threatens a regional food supply, the EOC absorbs the initial fragmented reports from state authorities and synthesizes the data. It then generates and distributes daily status reports, pushing critical updates outward to keep all involved divisions aligned on the facts. Operating as a centralized router, the EOC provides real-time situational awareness across the entire agency, ensuring no division attempts to combat a crisis in a silo. Under the Incident Command System, on-scene operations require a lead office. Initial leadership defaults to the division where the emergency is actively occurring. But if the investigation traces the contaminated product to a firm in another jurisdiction, the lead designation dynamically transfers to that firm's home division. This transfer applies immediate regulatory and legal leverage directly at the source of the contamination, cutting through geographic bureaucracy. The lead division is required to appoint an office emergency coordinator, a senior staff member stationed locally to advise management, review records, and channel all essential communications. This local command structure coordinates the physical realities of the response, directing field agents to inspect facilities, secure suspect lots, and identify the specific hazard within the consumer supply. Operational leadership always follows the evidence, shifting power directly to the location with the highest regulatory impact. While the lead division manages the physical investigation on the ground, the EOC spins up parallel institutional tracks back at headquarters. The FDA's specialized centers, such as the Center for Drug Evaluation and Research, activate to execute high-level scientific evaluations and formulate the resulting policy decisions. Simultaneously, the Office of Regulatory Affairs coordinates the overarching field enforcement strategies, guiding the investigators who are physically pulling product samples. The Office of Partnerships executes its mandate to rapidly coordinate with major municipalities and state governments. By keeping state-level partners, like a governor's office, fully briefed during an outbreak, the agency ensures local authorities know what actions to take within their borders. Concurrently, the Office of Media Affairs tightly controls the external narrative, issuing approved public guidance to prevent widespread panic and contain misinformation. This strict partitioning prevents jurisdictional chaos. Scientists analyze data, field agents secure facilities, public affairs teams manage the press, all operating within discrete, predefined boundaries. Catastrophic events, like radiological incidents or acts of bioterrorism, require a scale of response that extends beyond the FDA's sole capacity. The manual utilizes specific interagency checklists to explicitly map which federal entity handles what domain, seamlessly integrating the FDA into the broader national response framework. While agencies like the Federal Emergency Management Agency manage the overall logistical disaster response, and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention focus broadly on human health and epidemiological tracking, the FDA retains precise authority over its designated products. By strictly defining these boundaries, the agency maintains absolute control over the safety of medicines, food, and devices without causing federal overlap. A highly engineered system requires protocols for de-escalation that are just as strict as the procedures used to ramp it up. An emergency investigation is terminated when the hazard is neutralized, or another agency is deemed better equipped to handle the problem. The response can also be aborted early in the alert or presumptive stages if the required scientific evidence fails to materialize. Often, an emergency stabilizes into a localized defective product recall. When this occurs, the acute crisis architecture is disbanded, and standard recall procedures take over. To close the operational loop, the lead division must submit a final written summary to headquarters, documenting the event's entire chronology. Controlled termination prevents the indefinite drain of federal resources, handing the threat smoothly back to standard regulatory oversight once the acute danger is resolved. The Food and Drug Administration functions as a massive, highly disciplined information processing machine. By utilizing epistemological evidence gates, routing intelligence through a central hub, and executing parallel processing across specialized offices, Chapter 8 of the Regulatory Procedures Manual neutralizes the greatest threat to crisis management: human ambiguity. Whether tracking a minor local outbreak or securing the supply chain during a massive industrial disaster, the structural logic of the agency's response remains exactly the same. Operational speed is merely a byproduct of this framework. Public health protection is not born from panic or ad hoc heroism. It is the result of executing this pre-engineered regulatory schematic.